find that you can just give me a second. You have charged, or rather this committee has charged one of my clients by the name of Ms. Mkondo, and you've led evidence in respect of her, not so,
Yes.
in relation to the 10th of June, 2022, not so.
Yes, Chairperson, I have. Yes.
And the charges against her that she was obstructive, she physically resisted being kicked out of the house, and so on, not so.
The charges. Chair, allow me to go to the charges before I say yes.
Of course, that would be page 68 of the bundle.
68.
I'll assist you. So at page 69, one of the charges says you continue to refuse to leave the chamber.
Are you reading charge 3 or 2?
Please, sir.
All right.
You continue to refuse to leave the chamber when the Sergeant in Arms requested you to leave. And I imagine the chamber, you're talking about the physical building of the National Assembly where they convened, not so.
Yes,
The presiding officer, that would be the speaker, not so.
that's right.
Then instructed the Parliamentary Protection Services to remove you from the chamber, not so.
Yes,
And that your conduct improperly interfered with the exercise or performance by the House of its authority and functions, not so.
that's correct.
That obviously would have required her to be physically present at the chamber, isn't it?
Yes.
I put it to you that Ms. Mkondo was never at the chamber on that day. What's your response?
I mean, if I misidentified her, I'll take that, but the member that I saw on the screen was Ms. Mkondo.
I'm telling you that's not Ms. Mkondo. You have a response to that?
Obviously, Chair, I'll have to verify the member's identity. And if it is not Ms. Mkondo, then I accept that it is not Ms. Mkondo.
And if it's not Ms. Mkondo, then she is improperly charged, not so.
If it's not the member, yes, she would be improperly charged in this instance.
So you have nothing at this moment to say to me what I'm putting to you is not correct.
I'll have to verify that, Chair, because as far as I'm concerned, as I said, to the best of my ability, that was a member, and I'll have to verify that. Yes.
Maybe then let me assist you. Do you perhaps want to take us to the video and identify the person you call Ms. Mkondo? I'd imagine you'll be right at the end of the video because that's the last testimony you gave. And I'm afraid, Mr. Basu, you're not allowed to use a cell phone under cross-examination. Chairperson, if I can ask that Mr. Basu is asked not to use his cell phone under cross-examination, please. Can you give that ruling?
Thanks, Advocate Kasiboto. Dr. Kaso, please refrain from using the cell phone. Before we proceed, I also see the hands of Honorable Mlenzan and Honorable Kaba. I don't know if you want to come in at this moment. Your hands are up.
Just before they come in, Chair, can I please ask this out of caution, and I mean no disrespect to Kaba MP and Datem Mlenzan MP. I just want to be very careful here. Can I ask that the contributions they're going to make will not speak to the question, that I've just put or suggest anything in relation to the question. I'm obviously not presuming what they're going to say, but in the interest of protecting my clients, I would ask that they do not comment on this particular question. Can I ask for that ruling, Chair?
Can we listen to Honorable Mlenzana and Honorable Kaba? They have heard what you said. Tate Mlenzana?
Thanks, Chairperson of the session, and greetings to you all, the legal persona, affected members, and everybody in the platform. I will be careful, Advocate Kasiboto, not to cross the lines. I raised the hand, Chairperson, at the time when Advocate Kasiboto was raising, in fact, the first question. And my hand was raised not necessarily to deal with the content or the manner in which he was asking, but it was on procedural matters that now the question that he was actually asking, I'm putting this on record, not for debate, that the question he was actually asking was actually bordering on the committee having had a preview in terms of decision as to whether members are guilty or not, and that I wanted to correct. That is the main. I don't want to dwell much, as I'm saying. I just wanted to correct that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mlenzana. As you say, you raising this to put it on record. Honorable Kaba?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think in line with what Honorable Mlenzana had also raised, we are listening attentively. I think the cross-examination does not suggest to temper into the work and cast aspersion on the decisions of what the committee would finally recommend to the House. So it was the cross-examination questions. I'm not concluding to say they were unfair. I'm just calling on the chairperson to request that each party member or each division, if given opportunity to ask, don't temper into other work of the other committee, because as we are not tampering with the legal prep as well. And so I think I rise to second what Honorable Mlenzana had indicated to say, don't cast aspersions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Kaba. Points taken, and both legal teams are here. They have heard that. Can we proceed, Advocate Kasiboto?
Chairperson, I am sure I'm not the only one who is physically in this chamber who could not hear what was being said. And I see the initiator is nodding her head. I presume there was a criticism of my line of questioning. I'm not too sure what the complaint was. And I'll just proceed, and I ask that, Chair, if I cross the line or I do something I'm just being told not to do, it is not disrespect to any of the speakers or you, Chair. I just simply did not hear. And if you need to interrupt me at any point, please do, Chair. Mr. Kaso, I'd suggested to you that Ms. Mkondo was not in the chamber at the time. I'm asking you again, do you insist that it is her? Do you want an opportunity to replay the video and identify the person you called Ms. Mkondo, or do you retract your identification of that person as Ms. Mkondo?
President, my response is that when I said it was Ms. Mkondo, it's because I believed it was Ms. Mkondo. I accept that I may be incorrect. And to the extent that I may be incorrect, because what it would mean, I must verify the picture of the member. In fact, when I was trying to open the phone, I wanted to do exactly that, but I accept. If it's not Mr. Mkondo, then it's not Mr. Mkondo. Then I was wrong. That I will accept.
You know, Ms. Mkondo.
Chairperson, I deal with 400 members. I know, I don't know all of them. So often I have to verify the faces of the members that sometimes to know that this is a member. So I know I have seen Ms. Mkondo, but I cannot say that I know her. I've seen Ms. Mkondo as much as I've seen all the members of the House.
Before you testified it was Ms. Mkondo, did you verify it was Ms. Mkondo?
Chairperson, I did not check the records because I just followed the video that identified her as Ms. Mkondo. And that is really what I'm saying. So if it is not Ms. Mkondo, I accept it's not Ms. Mkondo, and I will take that. What I said here is because I believe it was Ms. Mkondo, and I may be wrong, that I accept.
I'm going to have to press you for a yes or a no. Did you verify it was Ms. Mkondo before you confirmed it was Ms. Mkondo?
No, I did not verify. It was Ms.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's the point. You did not verify.
Yes.
And if it is not Ms. Mkondo, as I'm telling you, then the charges must against her stand to be withdrawn.
Chairperson, that will be for the committee to withdraw the charges or not to withdraw the charges. But here I'm just giving the responses as I'm asked.
And if they were to ask your advice, what would your advice be?
Chairperson, I don't advise the committee, so I will not advise the committee. I'm here as a witness, not as an advisor to the committee.
I'm asking you a question in principle. If anyone you advise, let's say the subcommittee, let's say we're at the subcommittee stage which you advise, and they ask you, we're faced with a fact where we've charged a member for something they did not do, what would your advice to that committee or subcommittee be as an advisor?
Chair, I mean, of course, the subcommittee does not charge people, but if we misidentify the person, then we misidentify the person. So that is the wrong person, and you can't charge the wrong person. So
yes. And again, I make this point, and I've made this point over and over again. Yet again, we see the problem with the process of this committee. And I'm putting this to you as a proposition. You have a seasoned advisor such as yourself who has just confirmed you did not verify identity of a member that you have positively under oath confirmed to be guilty of charges. And now you concede you do not even verify the identity. You can appreciate why we have an issue with that as a starting point. You can equally appreciate why we've got a problem with this multi-layered process that includes subcommittees, that includes this committee, viewing the same video, undertaking the same exercise of verifying, yet all of them, including the members of this committee, miss such an important issue. You will then begin to understand our initial submission as to why there must be an independent fact-finding process. As a matter of principle, the answer should be yes or a no. Can you appreciate the complaint that my clients are raising with the committee processes?
no, I don't appreciate them, Chair.
Thank you. Let's deal with this. Perhaps before I start my second line of cross-examination, Chairperson, perhaps this is proper time. It's 1 o'clock to take the lunch adjournment until 2 o'clock and resume then. I'll take the directive from you, Chair.
Our lunch is at 1:15. It's 45 minutes. If you
Thank you,
want to take that line, then everybody must be back at 1:45.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Recording
Honorable
stopped.
member, 1:45, we all back.
Sorry, if we, Madam Chair, could I just ask the technician just to pause the recording? This is not the place where we left off yesterday. We stopped yesterday with the removal of Ms. Chirwa and Mr. Tambo. So if we can rewind the video recording to that point and take it from there. Sorry, Madam Chair, maybe just to facilitate things a little bit, if the technicians could just replay the fifth removal. That is of Ms. Chirwa and Mr. Tambo. And then we can just take it from there again. Thank you.
Members from the house. Honorable members, leave. No. Okay. Leave the house. Leave the house. What? What did you do? Honorable members, leave the house. What? There you. What are you using? Which rule? Will you now leave the house?
It is Cyril who must leave the house.
Will you please?
It is the money launderer who must leave the house.
Will you please take out Honorable Matulela, Honorable Mkondo, and Honorable Tafeni?
No, we are too far. We're a little bit too far. We must rewind a little bit. Go back here, please. Just a little bit. Yes.
Matulela and Honorable Tafeni. No, for the yes, those honorable members must leave the house. Shut out by you. And that is Speaker, what Rule 735 for obstructing the removal of members from the house. Honorable members, leave. No. Okay. Leave the house. Leave the house. What did you
Can I just ask the technicians to go back to 52 minutes?
What? Then you an insult.
Down on record, speak.
That is unleashing brutality.
Records.
Men are touching women's breasts and bums and our private parts.
Thank you. That's the right place. No, you went to. Okay. We can play from here.
And your legacy is disrespect when an lady. Honorable members. Honorable Tafeni. Honorable
Speaker, what is this you are doing now? Speaker. Speaker,
Mr.
what is
Castle,
this you are doing now?
Mr. Castle, that is Ms. Chirwa being removed, right?
You are perpetuating the harassment.
Yes. Thank you. So that's Ms. Chirwa. We played this yesterday, but just in order to facilitate a seamless video recording of the proper points, that is the removal of Ms. Chirwa being removed by the female PPS members.
That is correct, Chairperson.
Thank you. We can play from this point onwards.
Women, shame on you, Speaker.
And then just Mr. Castle on the left with the red hard hat on, that is it.
You'll account to this thing, the chaos you have started.
Sorry, if we can just pause, please. Just to recap again. The female EFF member with a red hard hat on, that's Ms. Ntlangwini. Am I right?
That's Ms. Matulelo.
Sorry?
That's Ms. Matulelo.
Oh, Ms. Matulelo, my apologies. Did you see what she did now?
Yes.
Yes, and just describe for us what you've seen.
She pushed a protection services member.
Prevented the removal of Ms. Chirwa.
Yes.
Thank you. We can play from this point.
Shame on you, you are doing all this to protect and money laundering.
Women insult the speaker.
Which insult? What is an insult?
On record, speak.
That is unleashing brutality.
Reports.
Men are touching women's breast and bumps and our private part. You attention.
If we could just pause there, please. Mr. Castle, there was I think it was a female member of parliament who said something about touching their breasts and bums. Was that somebody on the online platform? It didn't seem to me, judging from the recording, that it came from the House.
I'm not
What
certain
has
about
that got to do with anything?
Can we just rewind just for a minute, please?
Shame on you, you are doing all this to protect and money laundering.
Women insult the speaker.
Which insult? What is an insult?
On record, speak.
That is unleashing brutality.
Reports.
Men are touching women's breast and bumps and our private part.
Can we stop, please? Mr. Castle, can I refer you to the unrevised handset on the top of page 528? I think that will bring some clarity to the issue.
Yeah, I'm there. That men are touching women's breasts and bums.
And who says that?
It's Honorable Mkalipi.
Yes. Was she on the online platform?
Yes.
Yes. And then what does the speaker say before we go back to the video recording on the handset? What does she say?
You mean in response to that or
Yes.
after that?
Yes.
Honorable members, as I read your name, Honorable Tafeni, Honorable Mkondo, and Honorable Matulelwa, those honorable members must leave the House.
And further down, what does the speaker say? Because they ask her, what did they do?
Rule 73(5), this is what Speaker says. For obstructing the removal of members from the House, honorable members leave the House.
Thank you. We can continue with the video clip.
Attention. Honorable members, come on, speak your names.
your name. Come here and are you Honorable Tafeni? If you can say Honorable Mikondo, and honorable, yes, those people as committee members are leader. That's how I and that is the one Rule 735 for obstructing the removal of members from the house. Honorable members, leave. No. Okay. Leave the house. Leave the house. What did you do? Honorable members, leave the house. What? They do? What are you using? Which rule? Will you now leave the house?
It is Cyril who must leave the house.
Will you please?
It is the money launderer who must leave the house.
Will you please take out Honorable Matulela, Honorable Mkondo, and Honorable Tafeni? And then, Speaker, what did they do? Mkondo is out, Honorable Matulela, and Honorable Tafeni. You are not a woman, when I speak. You are not a woman, you are a male. You caught people with water. Because you opened a bottle of water. And therefore,
the murderer of Mariana people must also leave.
I said they must leave. Invite the PSS to remove them. Ladies. Invite the women from the PSS to remove the women.
Today you remember that women must be removed by women. Today, only today.
Honorable members, will you please lower your hands? Honorable members, lower your hands. Because once I have made a ruling on a member, I have to make sure that the member
lalela into esishoyo thina ukuthi sithini ngeke sizehlisa izandla kuleka nje.
If we can just pause there, please. Mr. Castle, if you could just explain to us or describe to us what you've seen on the video recording.
I see the honorable member, Matulelwa. When PPS is giving effect to Speaker's directive to remove her, she is resisting the removal, forcefully resisting the removal, obstructing the members of the PPS from removing her. She also goes onto the aisle of the House, which is not permitted in terms of the rules. And of course, she resists up to the end. When I say the end, I mean up to the door, exit point, where she's supposed to be taken out.
So she is that what they refer to as crossing the floor of the National Assembly, the House?
The floor of the National Assembly, and there used to be a convention that dealt with that, but that was codified a while ago to indicate that it is in breach of the rules to do that. I will find a rule as we continue, but that is a breach of the rules, and in fact, it's one of
Rule 64D.
Yes, it's one of those type of conduct that, well, I've been in Parliament for a while now. I've not seen it before that.
Yes. And tell me, while Miss Matulelwa crossed the floor, and we can see that she was violently fighting with the female PPS members, was the mace still in the house at the time?
No, the house wasn't sitting, and that is why it becomes a violation of the decorum of the house, an extreme violation of the decorum of the house, because the house is sitting, the mace is there. Anything could have happened to the mace while that was happening. And so the rule says no member is 64D. No member, a member during the sitting. Okay, let me just read it completely. Members must at all times accord the presiding officers of the NA, National Assembly, and members due respect and conduct themselves with dignity and in accordance with the decorum of the House, and are required, D says, not during proceedings to pass between the chair and the member who is speaking, nor between the chair and the table, nor to stand in any of the aisles or across aisles, nor to cross the floor of the House in front of the benches. That's what the rule says.
So can we continue with that video clip, please?
Suspend the business of the House.
If we could just pause there, please. We have now seen the removal of Ms. Matulelwa, Ms. Tafeni, and Mr. Mkhonto. We know that Ms. Tafeni has not been charged, and that is because she resigned as a member of the EFF. Am I correct?
No, well, I don't know why she has not been charged, because I was not part of the charging process. But I'll have to check the issue of the Ms. Tafeni is still a member, but I'll check that. But I don't know why she was not charged.
Okay.
That is the decision of the committee to charge or not to charge members.
Okay. So, but you confirm that together with Ms. Matulelwa, Mkhonto was also removed?
Yes,
Yes.
Mkhonto was also involved.
Yes.
And I also just need to indicate as well that why the proceedings were suspended.
Yes.
Because it was not the time for the suspension of proceedings at that, because there's usually, when there's a long debate, there's usually a time when proceedings are suspended, but proceedings were not, proceedings were suspended at that point because of what had just happened. And
Well, is it fair to say that there was chaos in the House?
there was chaos in the House, but it was mainly because of what the member had done, crossing the floor. As I said, it's something very unusual to do, something that happened that day. So the Speaker felt that proceedings must be suspended. You might have seen me doing some gestures there because I was uncertain about the suspension, but it was Speaker's decision and determination that the proceedings must be suspended, because what had happened was outrageous as far as the Speaker was concerned. What had just happened at that point was extreme. Thanks.
Yes. If we then could fast forward the video recording to when the House resumes and when the suspension has then occurred. After the suspension, if we can start, when the House resumes.
You
And
must
just
suspend
for-
Cyril. Suspend the money launderer.
You must suspend all the EFF. Honorable members, really gentlemen, we are not going anywhere.
Sorry, if we could just stop there, please. Sorry, I'm not sure where we are at. When the House resumes, this is for purposes of the technicians, the Speaker then addresses the House. In terms of the time that I have, the time slot is more or less at 02:38 or 02:40. In other words, we are then more than 2 hours into the recording. If you could be guided by that time slot, please.
Speaker, my hand was I'm appealing that allowing any members who are not voted by honorable members. The platform yesterday had to be shut down because there was disorder and people were causing disorder from the platform.
So this is not the right spot, eh?
The members.
Yes, the right place.
That's not the right spot.
Where do you want to be? Is it? Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah.
For purposes of the technician, we need to be at the place after the suspension and when the House resumes. That is when the Speaker then addresses the House. That is where we need to be.
Expected that by now we would be done with our work. However, in terms of the powers vested in me, I had to give rule number 77 because it allows me, in the event of a grave disorder at a meeting, that the presiding officer may.
Sorry, Mr. Technician, if you could just rewind maybe just by 10 seconds or so. Let's see where we are at. Thank you. That's the correct place.
May be seated. Honorable members, order. Order. Thank you very much. Let me start by apologizing to you for adjourning the sitting in the manner in which we did. All of us expected that by now we would be done with our work. However, in terms of the powers vested in me, I had to give rule number 77 because it allows me, in the event of a grave disorder at a meeting, that the presiding officer may adjourn the meeting or may suspend the proceedings for a period to be stated by him or her, which is what we have just done. Honorable members, I want to start by, before I'm going to allow parties to speak, and each party will take a minute. I want to start by saying what happened here this morning is totally unacceptable. All of us as members of parliament, the first thing in your orientation or in your induction, wherever it is, the first thing you are taught, amongst others, is that this part at the center where the mace is kept is a sacred
part of the chamber. You may not walk there for as long as the mace is there. You may not even cross the floor from the one side to the other for as long as the mace is there. Now, what happened this morning was totally unacceptable. And I mean unacceptable, honorable members. But allow me to give each party a minute to speak. And Honorable Tafeni, the fact that I'm speaking with you present here, keep it in mind, I haven't forgotten that I had asked you to leave the house. So once these parties have spoken because you decided to come back and you're occupying your seat, remember, you will still go out. Honorable the ANC Chief Whip.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. Indeed, you have practiced what is written in.
Sorry, we can now. Can we just pause there, please? The speaker, as we can see from the video recording, has given all the political parties an opportunity to address the House, but we can fast forward to where Mr. Brett Heron of the Good Party, where he speaks. And just for a guide, the time slot is... Yes, maybe we could just fast forward just a little bit to where we get to Mr. Brett Heron. Yes.
That we should behave accordingly. That is a huge responsibility. Now, we may differ from each other in terms of...
That is not Mr. Brett Heron.
...points of view.
Can fast forward a little bit more, thank you. There, we can pause there. If we can just go back just a little bit, 5 seconds, please. Here we go.
Very much honorable from member from the AIC. Honorable member from Good.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, what we saw yesterday and today is deeply disturbing to see the People's House degraded in the way we have seen it. Speaker, the rules that provide for the removal of a member from this House is not intended to provide an opportunity to provoke a forced eviction. The member that's asked to leave this House in terms of the rules should leave so without being forced to do so. And we should not see the disgusting violence that we saw this morning. I'm sorry to hear that there are members that are in hospital, but from where I was sitting, I saw members of this House assaulting parliamentary staff, and that's not acceptable. Speaker, we are here to conduct the business of the people of South Africa. Speaker, we do not represent our personal grievances. We are here to serve the people of South Africa.
There is no point of order for now.
He's lying.
No,
that happened.
Withdraw that. You are saying he's lying.
Not at all. He's lying. He's lying. Why single us and saying we assaulted the son? We did not. They assaulted
Honorable Yako.
We did not.
If we could pause there, please. Thank you.
Honorable Yako.
Mr. Council, who is that?
That's Honorable Yako.
Ms. Yako.
Yes.
Yes. And at the risk of stating the obvious, she was not recognized.
No, she wasn't.
She interrupted Mr. Heron.
That's right.
Thank you. We can continue.
Yako, will you please withdraw what you have just said?
Not withdraw, Speaker.
Okay, then if you're not withdrawing, please you may.
If we can just stop there, please.
Walk out.
We can just pause there. Mr. Castle, with reference to page 547 of the unrevised Hansard, what did the speaker ask? What did Ms. Yaku say? And what did the speaker ask her to do? To withdraw what?
Ms. Yaku said the member is lying.
And then the speaker asked
And the
her to
speaker
withdraw
asked
that.
the member to withdraw that. And the member said, I am not going to withdraw.
Thank you. Thank you. We can continue.
Please leave the chamber.
Speaker, how is it that always the only option is to kick people out of the
Honorable Papa, wait. I am using the rules of the house. Honorable Yacob, please leave the house.
the members.
He is leaving the house. He's lying. He is leaving the house. You can take it. Honorable, will you please withdraw? That is not what happened. You are refusing to withdraw. I will not withdraw. But he's leaving the house. Yacob, I'm coming to you. I will allow, would you finish?
May I conclude, Speaker?
Please conclude.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, we're not here to represent our personal grievances.
Why are you concluding?
South Africa, all the crises are urgent. Speaker, they rely on us, the people of South Africa rely on us to provide leadership and solutions, not chaos and disrespect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable member from the NFP.
Honorable.
NFP, please.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in this House, we have different processes that we follow. One of the things we're dealing with now is the budget process. And the purpose of the budget process is to ensure that we have allocation of resources so that we can deliver services. Now, 63 million people in this country, Honorable Speaker, are watching the decorum and dignity of this House go to an all-time low. They have entrusted us as the highest decision-making body in this House to act in the best interest, with respect, with dignity, with the highest levels of morality. Now, what we are doing here, Honorable Speaker, is everything else but acting in the interest of the people. The National Freedom Party is very clear about us that the process must continue. If we are unhappy about anything, we have other opportunities, we have other processes that we can follow. But this particular sitting must take place. It must finish. There are allegations will be dealt with. There's allegations against many people, not only in the South, all over the world. But we cannot live just on allegations. Allow the process to continue today. Allow the President to continue so that we can take South Africa forward. And I want to plead to anyone in the South that has the interest of the people of this country to please allow the process.
Thank you, Honorable member from the National Freedom Front. I am sorry, Honorable member from the Youth. I should have called you before the member from the EFF.
Thank you, Speaker. I think I heard Honorable Mazone complimenting or commending members of a caucus for being well behaved. Well, I think I should commend the 50% attendance record of the UDM in the House for those guys for being well behaved. Look, Speaker, I think firstly, let's give a bit of context. This is, if you were to look at it, this is President Ramaphosa.
Sorry, if we can ask the technician just to fast forward a little bit, please, until where the speaker addresses Ms. Tafeni. Move back a little bit, please. Rewind. Just a little bit more. Yes, if we could just pause there and see where we are at.
The presiding officer, in terms of Rule 7471, the presiding officer must instruct the sergeant in arms to
if you can remove a little bit, please. If you can rewind, sorry. A little bit more. A little bit more.
We will investigate the matter as it happened. Honorable members, we have 400 members here. We are representing 14 political parties, and of course, representing 14 political parties also implies that we are representing millions of South Africans.
That's fine.
As we proceed, I want to start with you, Honorable Chafeni.
There we go.
No. Wait. I want to start with you, Honorable Chafeni, and remind you that the members who I had requested to leave the House have left the House. You were supposed to leave the House. For now, you have not done that. I am now requesting you to leave the House.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Speaker, because during the time that is a man and the so the suppose
all of that, Honorable Tafeni, will be investigated. But what you did, I am leaving. Honorable Tafeni, I am pleading with you to leave the House. Honorable Tafeni, I am requesting you to leave the House.
For what?
For what happened before we left here. Honorable members, allow me.
Honorable Speaker, we are asking you to protect women. What is this thing that you are doing that you allow men?
Honorable members,
women's breast the way they do, and women are defending themselves. You are punishing women for defending themselves to degenerate.
Members, if I may read Section 73 of the Constitution.
We must not allow
one of the rules, and allow me to start with one, which says, if a member refuses to leave the chamber when ordered to do so by the presiding officer in terms of Rule 70 or 71, the presiding officer must instruct the sergeant in arms to remove the member from the chamber and the precincts of parliament. Number two,
she's telling you why she is not leaving.
Unable in person to effect the removal of the member, the presiding officer may call upon the Parliamentary Protection Services to assist in removing the member from the chamber and in the precincts of parliament.
Protect woman. Protect her.
If a member receives attempts to be removed from the chamber in terms of Rule 1 or 2, the Sergeant in Arms and the Parliamentary Protection Services may use such force as may be reasonably necessary to overcome any resistance. And this is no directive for them in the process to touch your private parts as you have indicated. And the last one member may in any manner whatsoever physically intervene in, prevent, obstruct, or hinder the removal of a member from the chamber in terms of these rules. I've read those rules, and I really want to make a plea to you that you observe the rules which we have adopted in Parliament here.
The point of
Honorable members, I have noted the hand of Honorable Gangwini and Honorable Gagude, but before I recognize you, I still want to plead with you, Honorable Tafeni and Honorable Yako, to leave the House.
Speaker, we are on virtual.
Please, then we are going to make court leave.
Speaker uzasenza abantu abakwata singekho kwata asikwadanga asikwadanga nje bathi me apha nje we have a right to speak here, we have a right to speak.
Honorable
Speaker, not there at this house, please.
Honorable Tapeni and Honorable Yako, will you please leave the house?
Lord, Yako was not even in the house at the time.
Honorable member from the virtual system. Virtual system. I am Kubangabetet. Who's that? No, I'm
Sorry, if I could just ask. Sorry, if I could just ask the technician just to rewind just by about 5 seconds, please.
the house.
Lord, Yako was not even in the house at the time.
Honorable member from the virtual system. Virtual system. I am Kubangabetet. Who's that? No, I'm going
Why must they leave, Honorable Chairperson? Why must they, when they were protecting themselves, why must they leave?
Honorable members. Okay, Honorable Papa, are you going to help me? Please help.
No, Speaker.
No point of order. The speaker
Get up from the floor.
You recognize us.
Get up from the floor.
In the house. You want to speak of the house.
Honorable.
Yesterday, you made a ruling that
But Speaker, my hand was up before.
I'm appealing that that platform be
Only allowing in.
Honorable members.
One voted for it.
Honorable members, the platform yesterday had to be shut down because there was disorder and people were causing disorder from the platform.
And it is you
members
who
I thought today we would allow you, honorable members, to not only listen but also participate. But if you are being disruptive, I will have no choice but to close the platform.
On a point of order, Speaker.
Undemocratic.
Speaker, I don't know why you're treating our members like this on the virtual platform. They are part of the house. They can raise points of orders anytime they see fit they want to raise points of orders. All the members that are interjecting at times, you don't look at the ANC members that are interjecting. You are quick to see EFF members and want to kick us out of the house. You didn't even give Honorable Yaku, was still going to talk to you. You said to her, no, take down your hand, I'm going to attend to you. Why are you not allowing her to speak? Now you want to also chase her out. Don't handle us like that. Don't stop handling us.
If we can pause there, please. If we can pause, please.
I direct you.
Mr. Technician, can we pause, please? Mr. Tasso, who was that was speaking to the speaker, addressing the speaker in the red turban scarf?
That Honorable Tlangwini.
Tlangwini, yes. And was she given an opportunity to speak?
Yes, she was.
Okay. If we can proceed, thank you.
I direct you to stop.
Democratic Speaker.
Honorable clerks of you have not switched off the virtual platform. You haven't. Mute everybody. Honorable member, Honorable Tapin, starting with you. I requested to leave the house. You know why. And I didn't want to get into that debate. I don't know. The same.
We can pause, please.
That's correct.
Honorable
Chair.
members, let's resume. We are on the cross-examination of the witness by Advocate Kasiboto. You have the platform, Advocate.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon again, Mr. Klaus.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kasiboto and committee.
So before we went on the lunch adjournment, I'd made the suggestion that you did not pay due regard to your functions by not verifying the people that were charged. I want to take that proposal further. I want to also suggest that it also means, now when I say it, the fact that Ms. Mkondo was charged, it also means the subcommittee on fiscal removals also did not perform their functions properly. Can you accept that as a proposal?
The committee, the subcommittee of the Rules Committee performed its functions properly. So I don't accept that proposal.
How can it have properly applied its mind to the case of Ms. Mkondo if we now accept she should not have been charged?
Sorry, I must object at this stage, Madam Chair.
Yes, Advocate Golden.
Thank you, Chair. I feel compelled to object at this stage. The supposition that Mr. Kasiboto put to Mr. Kaso, in other words, he put to him that now that we accept that the charges must be withdrawn, Mr. Kaso did not accept that at all, nor did he make the concession that those charges must be withdrawn. The only charges that can be withdrawn, and if it is withdrawn, procedurally, we now know it's already on the record, can only be done by this committee. So I must object to that. That is a flawed and factually incorrect proposition that is put to the witness. It's not fair to him.
Advocate Kasiboto.
Thank you, Chairperson. The question I was asking is this. I'm not going to respond to the objection. Let's move on. The proposal then I made to you is that...
But can we then agree that the committee will make the determination on that?
I'm happy with that, Chairperson.
Chair,
Yes,
sorry.
as the correct structure.
Sorry, Chair, through you. May I also then ask that Mr. Kasiboto is also duly warned for not putting incorrect propositions to the witness, and this is to be fair to the witness.
Thank you, Advocate Gordon. Advocate Kasiboto, the committee is the one that will deal with the withdrawal or not withdrawal of the charges as the correct structure that we indicated when we started here. We are investigating and we will report to Parliament as correctly said. So please refrain from doing that and withdraw such propositions as indicated so that we don't get hiccups as we deal with your cross-examination.
Thank you, Chairperson. I accept your ruling. Just to assist in that respect, all I simply said is a proposition I put to Mr. Klaso earlier on is that if she wasn't there, then she shouldn't be charged. That's all I was dealing with. That is not a factual inaccuracy. It was his own evidence, but I'm happy to accept your ruling and I'll move on. And I promise, as I haven't, not to put in factually incorrect suppositions. Mr. Klaso, the proposition I then made to you is that the subcommittee on physical removals clearly then did not properly apply its mind, at least to the, I'll show you in other instances where there was incorrect application of the mind and that your evidence was false. But I'm now just dealing with Ms. Mkondo, and I'm saying to you, if your evidence is that the subcommittee ought to have applied its mind to the facts, and we accept, or at least I put it to you, that they ought to, then had they properly applied their minds, then at some point at that subcommittee, it should have been noted that Ms. Mkondo is not guilty of at least charge 3. And you're saying you do not accept that. You say the subcommittee did its job. Now my question is this: how can they have properly done their job if I am correct that Ms. Mkondo was not available at the chamber?
Chairperson, I think I should make this point, which I had made before. The subcommittee does not charge people. The House does not charge people. The Rules Committee does not charge people and did not charge people. So my submission, Chair, and the committee, and my response to Mr. Kasiboto is that the committee did apply itself properly on the issue. May very well be that there was a misidentification of the person, which was a genuine omission, even on my part. So, but the committee did apply itself. And it, of course, it will be for this committee to consider all those factors when it gets to that point.
The further proposal I'm putting to you is that in the same vein that you, the subcommittee on physical removals, had not applied their minds, the same can be said about the Rules Committee, because it too did not raise the fact that Ms. Mkondo was not at chambers. Is that fair to say?
Chair, as I indicated, the Rules Committee, the subcommittee applied themselves properly on the issue.
And in the same way, I'm accusing you, the subcommittee on the physical removal, the committee on the Rules Committee, in the same way I accuse them of not properly applying their minds. This committee did not apply its mind before it made the recommendations to charge Ms. Mkondo. Do you have a comment?
The committee will answer for itself, Chairperson. That's not for me to respond.
You're saying that's for you to respond?
It's not for me to respond to that.
Why is it for you to respond on the Rules Committee?
Because I support the Rules Committee and I advise the Rules Committee and the subcommittee. I don't advise this committee. So it is for this committee to deal with that matter.
Why is it for you to speak on behalf of the physical removal and the Rules Committee?
If you may, Chairperson, through you, if Mr. Kasiboto can repeat the question.
I'm saying you are not prepared to speak on behalf of this committee. You're saying it will speak for itself. Yet you are prepared to speak on the other subcommittees. And I'm saying why?
Chairperson, it's simple. And I'm not sure why it should be an issue. I'm speaking here on for what happened in the House on the days in question. I mean, that should have been the query. Why am I speaking for the House? And I'm speaking here for this in the subcommittee, what happened in the subcommittee and the Rules Committee, because I've indicated I advise those committees.
Very well. But you can accept that in as much as you advise them, they remain human beings that man those subcommittees, not so?
Yes, I accept that, which is obvious. Yeah.
And they've got their own minds, don't they?
No, they do have their own minds.
And you had suggested earlier on, you will not purport to speak on behalf of anyone, including the Speaker. Did you not?
No, I did. Chairperson, I think I need to clarify this. It is my view that that committee applied itself. It is my view that the Rules Committee applied itself. on the matter. And that's really my view.
Very well. Let's deal with Rule 73 of the Rules of the National Assembly. You can accept as a starting point that the Speaker is bound by all the rules of the National Assembly, not so?
Yes, the Speaker, like any other member, is bound by the rules of the National Assembly.
Including when she makes rulings, not so?
The Speaker follows the rules of the National Assembly to the best of her ability, as far as I'm aware.
Yes. And she's not allowed to deviate from the rules, not so?
The person I've said to the best of her ability. That's really what I can say. That members are expected to comply with the rules. Speaker is a member of the House, and so are members of this committee and any other member.
You see, this is the thing with the elongated answers that are not direct to a very basic question. I end up not understanding what the answer is. A yes or no could have sufficed here. The Speaker is not allowed to deviate from the rules.
Chairperson, as we have dealt with this before, Mr. Kasiboto is entitled to ask me questions, and he may not tell me how to answer. So I've responded in the manner I deem appropriate.
I can appreciate that, Mr. Glasso. I'm just trying to get you to assist me, so not for your benefit, for my benefit, if I can ask kindly, and perhaps for the benefit of the other committee members who might not be certain what the answer is. So I want to ask for your indulgence, that to the extent you can answer the question with a yes or a no, can I please, and I'm asking for indulgence, that you grant me that indulgence just so I know what the answer is.
Chairperson, to the extent that I can. To the extent.
That's fair. That's fair enough. So I'm going to ask the question again. The Speaker is not allowed to deviate from the rules. She's bound by them.
Chairperson, members are not allowed to deviate from the rules, including the Speaker. Yes.
That's good enough for me. Now let's deal with Rule 73. It says if a member refuses to leave the chamber when ordered to do so by the presiding officer in terms of Rule 70 or 71, the presiding officer, i.e. the Speaker, must, and I place emphasis on the word must, instruct the Sergeant at Arms to remove the member from the chamber and the precincts of Parliament forthwith. The proposition is this. The word must is preemptive. Would you accept that?
Madam Chair, sorry. May I object to this
Yes,
line of
Advocate. Yes, Advocate Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I think that I need to raise this because this line of questioning is not appropriate for this hearing. These are legal issues and legal interpretation of the rules that Mr. Kasiboto is now engaging the witness on. Mr. Kaso is here to give evidence as to what transpired in the House on the 9th and the 10th of June 2022, because he was there personally, he was physically present and observed the disorder and chaos in the House. So he was here to take us through that. That is the purpose of his evidence. Given also that there is pending litigation in the High Court about the interpretation of the rules, the interpretation of the process that is followed, there is also, I believe, a challenge on the constitutionality of the process followed in this hearing, and also, I believe, a constitutional challenge on the rules. That is best left for the Western Cape High Court to deal with. It is not fair nor appropriate to expect Mr. Kaso now to give legal opinions on the interpretation of issues, which is exactly now pending before the High Court. And I ask my learned friend to please tailor his cross-examination questions appropriately.
Thank you, Advocate Golden. Advocate Kasiboto, that's the request. Please refrain from the legal principles and let's come to the level of this hearing.
Well, Chairperson, I was hoping that you are consistent on that, because when I raised objections to the line of questioning of the initiator, you allowed an opportunity to respond before you ruled. I was hopeful that you'd grant me the same indulgence.
You can still have your time. What will you respond be?
Thank you, Chairperson. I object to the objection for this reason. The first one is that Mr. Kaso is not a layperson. He is here to advise on the rules. That is what he does. He advises Parliament on the rules. The second point is that he himself, in examination in chief, gave reference to rules and what they mean, and I did not object to that. He would say the Speaker exercised this rule, this is how the rule applies, and that is why the Speaker came to this conclusion. There was no objection in that respect. It therefore be inconsistent of you, Chairperson, to stop me from that line of questioning. But I will respect your ruling nonetheless with this caveat. To the extent you stop me from asking those questions, then all the evidence that Mr. Kaso gave on the rules must be expunged from the record and as evidence to the charges, because you can't have it both ways. Where, in respect of his own evidence, he can give interpretations of the rules. When it comes to cross-examination, I'm stopped from asking those questions. I'm going to therefore ask for your ruling in that respect, person.
Advocate Golan, is this how it has to be? Like the advocate here is indicating that during the evidence leading, the same legal jargon was used, for lack of better word, and now she's asking the same in line with how you conducted your evidence. I have recognized you. I see your hand, Honorable Kawa. Let me allow Advocate Golden first.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, as far as I recall, Mr. Kasiboto did not at all object to my line of questioning when it came to the rules of the National Assembly and in relation to the charges. So those are the charges that we are dealing with, and those are the rules. Also, you will recall that the charges were explained in relation to the members' conduct. What we see now is that Mr. Kasiboto is now wanting to choose legal argument questions to put that in cross-examination when it is more appropriate for legal argument and in written submissions at the conclusion of the factual evidence. So I stand by my objection and I leave any ruling, if appropriate, in the committee's hands.
Thank you, Advocate Golden. Honorable Kawa.
Thank you, Chair. And maybe let me confirm we are listening carefully to the proceedings as it takes place. Just to caution, Chair, through your ruling, that the concluding remarks that either has to come to the initiator or the lawyer, that will be done at the end. I am concerned us having to listen to instructive request to say the evidence be expunged, because that could be a determination of request recommendations to the committee at a later stage. Remember, Mr. Kaso having to be here giving evidence. It's not only for the learned friend, the representative of those alleged, not even guilty, alleged to be, and it's not only for the initiator. We are listening to both sides of the story. We can't be conclusive to be instructive. I'm just calling for the chairperson to just give direction to that. Thank you, Chair. We are still listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Klava. Advocate Kasibot. Indeed, your objections were on the initiator's leading questions. You have objected on numerous occasions to say he's leading, she is leading the witness. Can I request you that you leave the legal arguments for closing arguments by both teams at the end of this, so that we proceed with the cross-examination without putting on the legal arguments?
Thank you, Chairperson. I abide the ruling, but I just need guidance then as to what I'm permitted to do. You would have heard the initiator say, she asked questions around the rules and I did not object. And that is true because it is permissible. All I'm simply doing, it is the same exercise. For example, I am now dealing with Rule 73, which Mr. Kaso led evidence on. He read Rule 73. I am now simply asking him questions about that evidence on Rule 73. I've made no legal submission other than to test what is in chief. The initiator has told you that she asked him questions on the rules. I am simply doing the same thing. So at the risk of disregarding ruling, Chair, I'm just seeking guidance on what it is exactly you're asking me to do. Because all I'm doing is asking questions on the same Rule 73 that I allowed questions on when the initiator was examining Mr. Kaso. So I'm just asking for your guidance, Chairperson. I'm doing nothing that the initiator did not do.
What I'm asking on Advocate Kasiboto is for you to confirm the instances he responded to as a witness on the rules, not making legal arguments. As I'm saying, let the arguments be, the legal arguments, be reserved for both teams at the closing arguments that will be, both of you will be afforded a chance to do. There's a way of going around asking with the rules, instead of making it a legal argument. So please, let's deal with this in a way that is in accordance with what we are supposed to do here. Advocate Golden is saying what you're doing as we ask questions on the rules, you're making legal arguments. So I'm saying refrain from doing that so that we are able to proceed with the level of the hearing, not legal arguments as he says. But that is not for this platform now.
What point of order, Chair? Can I raise on a point of order?
Honorable Tambo.
Yeah, but can the initiator
Sorry, Madam
illustrate? No,
Sorry,
it's
Madam
wrong. It's wrong. You are limiting our counsel from how it must cross-examine. There was no legal argument that was raised here.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
EFF is saying that they're doing exactly what the initiator had done.
Yes, Honorable Tambo, just hold on.
The rules
The point of order here.
Earlier on.
There's
Why? You're
Honorable Tambo, just hold on.
You're discriminating our
Just
counsel.
hold on. There's a point of order. Just hold on.
But on my order, it's my point of order. Who's raising an order on top of mine? You're discriminating our counsel. Our counsel is doing the exact same thing the initiator did. They're referring PASO to the rules. PASO explains the rules to the initiator. Our counsel is doing the exact same thing. You're framing that as legal argument.
I have a strong object at this stage. Madam Chair, sorry, a strong object at this stage, if you could allow me to speak.
Wrong.
Honorable Tambo, just hold on.
Why do you want to speak when I'm speaking? What type of behavior is that? I'm saying to you, I'm raising on a point of order. You are speaking while I'm speaking. Our council wants to do the exact same thing the initiator did, getting council to clarify on the rules. Why is it being framed as legal argument? But when the initiator did it, it was not discriminated against. You're discriminating against us here, and that's why we said this is a farce. Allow our council to ask for clarification on the same rules that council clarified for the initiator. Why are you discriminating against our council, making illogical rulings like this? It's wrong. It's wrong.
Advocate Golden, can you come in? I will come back to Honorable Tambo.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the nature of my objection is really a simple and it's a procedural one. The members of the EFF are represented in this hearing by legal counsel and an instructing attorney. They are not allowed to interject in any of the proceedings. They must do so through their legal team. That is the proper way of conducting this hearing. And I ask that you please prevent that from happening again. Otherwise, I will ask that the relevant member be muted. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kate Golden. I will not do that again. I will not give the affected members. Like it is indicated, Honorable Tambo, may you please raise your objections through your legal team so that we avoid these situations. Advocate Kasiboto, can we continue?
Well, then, Chairperson, I take issue with that as well. Before we got here, Mlenzane MP, Taba MP raised objections in this House about my conduct and my line of questioning in the comments I was making. You did not make a ruling that they must do so through their legal representative. Why is it then when my member, a charged member, who's obviously concerned about this process and is concerned about his rights and his interests, raises objections as well to protect his interest, why then is he being asked to speak through me? What is the distinguishing factor between the objections raised by the ANC MPs to the objection is just raised?
Before I go to
Honorable, I'm a member of Parliament here. I'm a member of
Before
Parliament.
I go to Honorable Tambo, I'm still speaking here. Before I go to Honorable Taba, Advocate Kasiboto, if you could just say members of committee, refrain from calling them members of the ANC in this platform. They are here representing a committee of parliament. So it will not be okay that you say members of the ANC. We are a multi-party committee that constitutes this committee that is here. Your hand is raised.
Thank you, Chair. In line with your advice and guidance, Chair, we don't want to say, Advocate, perhaps you may have wanted to check their credentials. I'm participating in the meeting with the Chair as a member of the committee, not charged or what. Even Honorable Mlenzane is a member of committee. Even Honorable Ndlozi is the member of committee. And we also have DA members as members of the committee. We are not partisan. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Kaba. Advocate Kasiboto, we're going to continue. The members of the committee, as and when they raise hands, I will recognize them. They are members of the committee and members that you are representing. They will have to speak through you so that your cross-examination is seamless. Can we then continue?
Thank you, Chairperson, for your ruling. Mr. Kaso, before the engagements, I've taken you to Rule 73 sub 1. Are you still there?
Chairperson, yes, I'm still there.
I'll read that rule again. Excuse me. It provides that if a member refuses to leave the chamber when ordered to do so by the presiding officer in terms of Rule 70 or 71, the presiding officer must instruct the sergeant at arms to remove the member from the chamber and the precincts of parliament forthwith. And I placed emphasis on the word must before. Now, the question I want to ask you is this. When the speaker wants to remove someone from the chamber, she must, as a starting point, call the sergeant at arms. Not so.
A member refuses to leave the chamber. The speaker
Yes.
calls the sergeant at arms. Yes.
Yes. And that would precede her right to call the Parliamentary Protection Services, not so.
It is, it precedes that right at that starting point, but it's important, Chair, that you also, okay, maybe let me not say this, I might have to say it later on. Let me hear you out, Mr. Swoto. My apologies for that.
Thank you. And before she can call the sergeant at arms, she must first ask the member to desist from the impugned conduct, not so.
No, it's not always the case. But let's read Rule 70 so that you can understand my point.
Sure.
Rule 70 says, if the presiding officer is of the opinion that a member is deliberately contravening a provision of these rules, or that a member is disregarding the authority of the chair, or that a member's conduct is grossly disorderly, he or she may order the member to leave the chamber immediately. So there's no asking the member to desist from what the member is doing.
But you can accept that her practice was to ask members to desist from doing what she alleges to be contravention of the rules, not so.
Her option at points was to ask members to desist, but there is no requirement for her to do that in terms of the rules.
And if she fails to call the sergeant at arms and immediately instructs the Parliamentary Protection Services to remove a member, then she's not acting in accordance with Rule 73, not so.
Chairperson, that's a point I wanted to get to earlier, and I will get to it now. If you read Rule 73(6), sorry. Any member or members who contravene sub-rule 5 may, on the instruction of the presiding officer, also be removed from the chamber in the presence of Parliament. Rule 5, no member may in any manner whatsoever physically intervene in, prevent, obstruct, or hinder the removal of the member from the chamber in terms of these rules. Any member, then 5 follows. Now, there is no suggestion in these 2 rules that sergeant at arms must be called first. That is why when members are physically intervening in the removal of members, the speaker would call the protection services. So that is my response to your question.
I apologize, that answer was long and I'm not too sure what the answer is. So having said what you said, if you can then sum up that answer perhaps in a sentence, because I want to understand you properly. I am putting it to you that the speaker may not call Parliamentary Protection Services prior to invoking the services of the sergeant at arms when removing a member from the chamber.
Chairperson, my response is Mr. Kasiboto is incorrect. There would be instances where the speaker asks the members to be removed immediately from the chamber without having to call the sergeant at arms.
Removed by whom?
By the protection services.
Please refer me to that provision.
Well, the rules are clear that you have the sergeant at arms, you have protection services, and the members may be removed by the protection services at any point. So there's no requirement that in every instance, the speaker has to call the sergeant at arms, even when the situation calls for her not to call the sergeant at arms.
I'm really struggling to follow. I've read Rule 73(1). It specifically says, when the Speaker wants to remove a member who refuses to leave the House, she must call the Sergeant at Arms. In other words, not Sergeant at Arms or the Protection Services. She must call the Sergeant at Arms. You're saying I'm wrong. I'm now asking you what rule empowers her as a starting point to call the Parliamentary Protection Services.
Chairperson, I think it's important to understand the sequence of things here. Rule 73 must be read in line with the Rule 70. Here, a member is being asked to leave the chamber. Yeah, member being asked to leave the chamber. A member refuses to leave the chamber. Then the rule says the Sergeant at Arms must be instructed to remove the member. Now, in Rule 70, a member has, 7.5 and 7.6. A member has already been asked to leave the chamber, and these other members, in defiance of what the Speaker has said, then physically intervene. Now, the rule says those members must also be removed from the chamber and the precincts forthwith. And the application of this rule has always been that at that point, there's no calling of the Sergeant at Arms. Those members are removed from the chamber by the protection services. That is my response. I hope Mr. Kasiboto now understands my point. He may disagree with it, but that is where things are.
I do not understand your point, Mr. Klasu, so I'll just put the proposition to you and then we can engage on that basis. The Speaker must call the Sergeant at Arms when a member refuses to leave. And if the member refuses, only then can the Speaker ask for the Parliamentary Protection Services. Now, assume I am correct. Answer as a matter of hypotheticals. In other words, now you're assuming I'm correct. I'm not saying it's your answer, but let's work with an understanding that I'm correct. It would therefore, if I'm correct, be improper of a member to be removed by the PPS as a starting point. Not so.
No. Mr. Kasiboto and honorable members, I think I've made this point that there are two scenarios here. There's a scenario of a member who has done something that the Speaker views as unparliamentary. The member refuses to withdraw a remark. The member is asked to leave. The sequence is that if the member refuses, then you must call the Sergeant at Arms. And then the member is then assisted. If the member still refuses, then you call in the protection services. Now, the other scenario is these other members, in the course of the ruling of the Speaker being applied, they intervene. Now, there's no provision here that then call the Sergeant at Arms or what, the application of this rule, and this is what we are talking about. The application of this rule is that the Speaker would then get those members removed immediately from the chamber, forthwith. And that has always been the application of these rules, by the way.
This is the difficulty, Mr. Glass. You are now giving me your interpretation of the rules and how you see them. And I'm not taking anything away from that. I hear you. I am now saying, assume a position you are wrong and I am right, because I will submit to this committee later on that your interpretation is wrong and mine is correct. And if you then answer my question on the basis of I am correct, then it assists the committee make the determination. So forget what your interpretation is, and I accept it to be that. I'm saying now assume what I am putting to you, because I've asked you for a reference to a rule that says what you say, you have not done so. Now assume I am correct. that you cannot kick a member out as a starting point using parliamentary protection services. Assume that to be correct and answer on the basis of me being correct, not your interpretation of the rule. If I am correct, then the speaker would have been acting unlawfully by instructing parliamentary protection services without warning the member, without invoking the services of a sergeant at arms. Not so.
Chairperson.
Sorry, Chair. May I again raise? Sorry, Chair, and I must just say up front that I do not want to unnecessarily, and nor can I, unnecessarily restrict opposing counsel's cross-examination. However, I think that we have now, or he has now gone beyond that which is fair and that which is permissible. He has now repeatedly put the same issue to Mr. Kaso. Mr. Kaso has answered on no less than 2, maybe even 3 occasions. His answer hasn't changed. It doesn't matter how many times Ms. Kasiboto asks the same question. He's not going to get a different answer. He's badgering Mr. Kaso into giving him an answer that he wants, which he is not getting. Chair, I ask that you instruct Mr. Kasiboto to move on and to keep whatever interpretation, legal arguments he has to make for the appropriate time when we deal with legal argument. Thank you.
Thanks, Advocate Golden. Advocate Kasiboto.
Thank you, Chairperson. Unfortunately, Mr. Kaso did not answer the question I was asking. And my understanding was he's not answering it, not because he's evading my question, but perhaps he doesn't understand my question. So the only reason I repeated the question was so he understands what I'm asking of him. If he refuses to answer the question, well, then so be it, I'll accept that. And perhaps I could assist the chair and make your task easier and accept that I will move on and not ask that question again. But I just want to place on the record this. Assuming I am right about my interpretation, assuming that the speaker cannot use the PPS as a starting point, then it must be that when she does that, she's acting unlawfully. That's the point I was getting at. And I'll then ask the second question. And the second question is this, Mr. Kaso. With your leave, of course, Chair, I'm not disregarding the fact that you're supposed to make a ruling. I just feel I accept and I'll move on. And if you're happy with that, Chair, then I'll just proceed.
As you move on, please ask your questions, not many times repeating, because we are all here. He's been responding. Just try to move on. If the response is not what you expect or is not satisfactory, just know that and move on to the next question. It will help us all. We can proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Kaso, let's go to Rule 73, Sub 11.
Some there, Chairperson.
That rule says, in the event of violence, so there's a qualification as to when this can happen. In the event of violence ensuing in the chamber as a result of members resisting removal, the presiding officer may suspend proceedings and members of the security services may be called upon by the speaker during such period of suspended proceedings to assist the removal of members from the chamber and the precincts of Parliament forthwith in terms of Section 4.1 of the Powers and Privileges Act, provided that the security services may intervene directly anywhere in the precincts and the chamber in terms of Section 4.2 of the Act when there is immediate danger to the life or safety of any person or damage to any property. The point I want to make is it is there clear when the parliamentary services may be invoked. You have suggested, no, there are other instances where their powers may be invoked. And I'm asking you to direct me in the same way as I've directed you to your version of things.
Chairperson, I think it's necessary at this point, and I hope I understood Mr. Kasiboto, to just explain what this rule, sub-rule 11 is about. And to
Mr. Basso, sorry to do this to you. And this is how then I get into trouble, because you answer questions I'm not asking you and I'm forced you to ask the question again. I'm not asking for your interpretation of sub 11. I am asking you to direct me in the rules where it says parliamentary services may be invoked on the version that you have given, not interpret what I've just read to you. That is my question to you.
maybe I should first seek clarification, Chair. Can you just clarify your question again, Mr. Kasiboto? Why are you reading Rule 11?
Mr. Gasso, I ask you questions, not the other way around.
Chairperson,
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. That is grossly unfair to the witness. If a witness seeks to clarify a question, he must be permitted to do that, because if he doesn't do that, he may be misled.
Advocate Kasiboto.
There's no such a thing, Chairperson. If I'm asking examination, cross-examination questions, I want to discredit the version of the witness. How then must he have a benefit of what I'm trying to achieve? I mean, it's just, with respect, Chairperson, I object to the objection. I am entitled to ask a question without telling the witness what the point of my question is, because what I'm trying to do is to discredit this version. I can't then assist him dodge my question by understanding why I asked the question, Chairperson, with respect.
Chairperson, with your permission, I may?
Yes.
Chairperson, the reason I wanted clarity, because I thought I might have misunderstood him, because I want to indicate, and this is where hopefully he's going to clarify this, because I'm not certain whether by reading security services, he is talking about parliamentary protection services. That's the clarity I wanted.
I'm happy to move on, Mr. Gasso. I've made my point. And just for future purposes, you cannot ask me why I'm asking you a question. You can ask me, what does my question mean? Or ask me to clarify the question. What you're not entitled to do is ask me why I'm asking you. And the point is simply this, Mr. Gasso. Mr. Tambo MP, who's one of the charged members, stands up when the parliamentary protection, before we get there, the Speaker invokes the services of the Sergeant at Arms, asking him to direct and ask Ms. Chirwa MP to leave the chamber. And if you object to the account I'm giving you, I'm happy for us to watch the video. The Sergeant at Arms proceeds towards Ms. Chirwa, presumably to effect the instruction of the Speaker. Do you recall that engagement? You testified about it earlier.
Even that I have forgotten things, I'll ask for the tape to be prepared. Yeah.
I'm happy. What then happens as the Sergeant at Arms approaches Chirwa MP, Mr. Tambo stands up and a question is put to you. What is Mr. Tambo doing? I wrote it down. Your answer is, Mr. Tambo is talking to the Sergeant at Arms. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
You've given your answer that the Sergeant at Arms is talking to Mr. Tambo. You then change your version. Do you recall when you changed your version?
I don't recall changing version, Chair, but Mr. Katsuboda can remind me about the change of version.
There was a question Presumably because the answer you've given is not the answer you're supposed to give. And the question is led by, no, but Mr. Tambo is standing in between Miss Chirwa and the Sergeant at Arms. What is he doing? Do you remember that question from the initiator?
I do, and there was no change of version there.
And then what happened is you gave an answer. You said, oh yes, he is blocking the Sergeant at Arms. Do you remember that?
Chair, what I would have said, and I'm happy to replay that. I would have said Mr. Tambo they were talking, and the Sergeant at Arms was sent to assist the member to leave the chamber. And he was blocking the member from doing that, the staff member from doing that.
You've basically said what I've just said, but what you are not doing is accepting. You've accepted earlier. You can change your version again now. I'm happy for you to do that. But all I'm simply saying to you is you accepted that your first answer was Mr. Tambo is talking to the Sergeant at Arms. And that's where you stopped. The initiator came in and gave you her perception of what is happening, which is no, but Mr. Tambo is standing between Ms. Chiro and the Sergeant at Arms. You then gave a version which now says he is blocking the Sergeant at Arms. And I'm saying to you, that is the evidence, and I'm going to make submissions in that respect. I then again say, your version of Mr. Tambo blocking Sergeant at Arms was prompted by the follow-up question, which then led to you changing your version from he is talking to the Sergeant at Arms to he is blocking the Sergeant at Arms. Do you have a comment to that?
Chair, yes, I do have a comment. I don't understand the blocking of, the change of version. The effect of what Mr. Tambo was doing was blocking the Sergeant at Arms, and that's what it is. It was just continuation of the response. If I happen to stop before I got to that point, and that is understood as change of version, then that is for Mr. Kasiboto, not for me.
Do you know what Mr. Tambo said to the Sergeant at Arms?
I don't know what he said.
Did you ask the Sergeant at Arms what Mr. Tambo said to him?
No, I did not ask him, and there was no need for me to ask him.
Surely, if you're going to charge a member for disorderly conduct, you care about the facts that surround that conduct, not so?
Chairperson, the answer is simple. If Mr. Tambo had an issue to raise with the ruling of the Speaker, it was to raise a point of order and raise that point of order. It was not for Mr. Tambo to engage the Sergeant at Arms who had been directed in terms of the rules to go and remove a member. That's obstruction. That's what it is.
How do you know Mr. Tambo wanted to raise a point of order or challenge the ruling?
No, why raise it to the Sergeant at Arms through you, Chairperson? Sergeant at Arms was not the presiding officer on the day. Speaker was the presiding officer.
Who said that is what he said to the Sergeant at Arms?
No, but that's what you're asking. You're asking me what if he wanted to raise a point of order? And I'm saying that even if he did want to do that, Sergeant at Arms was not the right person to do that too. And Honorable Tambo, as a member, knows that. Speaker is the chair.
I said no such a thing, Mr. Glasso. I said to you, do you know what Mr. Tambo said to the Sergeant at Arms? You said no.
Yes.
I then said to you, surely you care about the facts that surround kicking out of members. I said no such a thing about a point of order. You came up with a point of order. Now I'm asking you, how do you know that engagement was about a point of order?
No, I don't know. I indicated earlier on that I don't know what the issue was.
Yes, so I did not speak about a point of order. You did.
Okay.
Because you're assuming where I'm going, isn't it?
No, look, I'm not assuming. I'll be happy to know where you're going, but I'll wait for you to ask the questions.
Very well. And I put it to you that for someone who's responsible for the procedures of Parliament and someone who advises various structures about these proceedings that we are sitting in now, Surely you must care about facts that surround impugned conduct, not so.
Chairperson, I'm trying to be as helpful to this process as is possible. I care about what goes on, but it was not my duty to ask the Sergeant at Arms what Mr. Tambo was saying to her. As it would not have been my duty to ask even the production services when the members were exchanging words with them, or at least talking to them, what they were saying to them. So, yeah.
Do you know if anyone asked Mr. Tambo or the Sergeant at Arms as to what the engagement was about?
No, I don't. I mean, if there's an interest to ask the Sergeant at Arms, he's a staff member, he can be called and be asked what he said.
And to the best of your knowledge, no one has ever asked the Sergeant at Arms and Mr. Tambo what the interaction was about.
No, I don't. I don't.
Yes. Yet, all these structures that were involved in bringing these charges make it definitive, or at least at a prima facie conclusion, that Mr. Tambo stood simply to block the Sergeant at Arms from performing his tasks, not so?
That is the charge, Chair, and of course, it would be for Mr. Tambo to state his version in this forum.
In hindsight, with your involvement, the Physical Removals Committee, the Rules Committee, the Parliamentary Committee that is seized with this matter, in hindsight, do you think it would have been proper to have the version of the Sergeant at Arms and that of Mr. Tambo before a determination is made that he's simply obstructing?
Chairperson, I believe that the committees that dealt with these matters I don't know. I believe that the structures that dealt with these matters, they did a proper job, and I really did not see a basis for Mr. Malimi, sorry, to be asked what conversations he had with members. And in the event that Mr. Malimi thought it was necessary to report to the speaker, like when he wanted to, when he was